I also want to let you know we're entering a series, and this series is on stewardship. And stewardship has become a kind of a dangerous word for pastors. I know pastors that won't preach anything about stewardship. They're afraid that people will be offended if they talk about stewardship. I think we've got to talk about stewardship. Why? Because stewardship is about what we do. It's about all that we are. It's about everything that we're about after we come to know who Jesus is. It's about our response to Jesus. Now, I'm not talking just about money. I'm talking about stewardship. I'm talking about all of it. All of our lives, after we come to Jesus, are a response to His gift to us. And so it's important for us. It's essential for us. It's absolutely non-negotiable for us to talk about stewardship. And so we want to begin this morning out of this passage from Luke, and also out of the context of Micah, right? What does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God? That's not the version we read. That's the version I memorized. Close enough. Yours was too, by the way. Okay. A New York Times Magazine article reported on the following statistics for the U.S. self-storage business. The United States now has 2.3 billion square feet of self-storage space. That is enough. That is more than 7 square feet for every man, woman, and child. It's now physically possible that every American could stand all at the same time under the total canopy of self-storage roofing. Think about that. We could all stand all together in self-storage facilities. That might be worth a holiday, you know? Okay, I'm getting on there.
What's your garage?
That includes my garage. Thank you for pointing that out. Don't get mad. I don't get even ahead. I'm sorry. Let me go back to this New York Times article. The United States has upward of 51,000 storage facilities, more than 7 times the number of Starbucks. And if you think about how frequently Starbucks shows up in some. By the early 1990s, Americans had on average twice as many possessions as they did 25 years earlier. 50% of storage renters store stuff that wouldn't fit in their home, even though the size of the average American home has doubled in the past 50 years. 15% of customers told the Self-Storage Association that they were storing items they no longer need or want. When you think about the parable that Jesus tells in Luke, and you think about what we've done with self-storage, I just have to wonder, what does it mean to own something? What is true ownership? Do we own things that we possess? Do they own us? Stewardship, you see, to me, that's the divine plan for escape from that trap. If you approach life as though you don't own, you simply possess for a time, are stewards of, are guardians of the resources that God has provided for this time and this place, I think that's a better answer myself. But I'm already getting ahead of myself. Throughout his life, Pablo Picasso is It's estimated to have produced around 13,500 paintings or designs, 100,000 prints or engravings, 34,000 book illustrations, and 300 sculptures or ceramics. Thanks to casino magnate Steve Wynn, however, one oil painting will enjoy a greater level of infamy than all the other works. The painting is titled The Dream, and Picasso completed it in 1932. And in 1997, at an art auction at Christie's in New York City, Steve Wynn purchased the painting for $47 million. The purchase actually turned out to be quite an investment. In less than a decade, Wynn completed a deal to sell the painting for $139 million, tripling its value. The transaction would have set a record for the sale of a piece of art. You notice I said it would have. Just after completing the deal, Wynn, who was standing close to the painting, turned and inadvertently clobbered the Picasso with his elbow, placing a 6-inch hole in the middle of the masterpiece. While no one is certain what this does to the value of the painting itself, the effect on the sale price was immediate. Even more quickly than it had come, the record-breaking 139 million sale evaporated. Life has interruptions. Jesus and his disciples are on the way somewhere else when this guy appears out of the crowd with his question about settling an argument about finances. Jesus says, be careful. You don't want to hold on to things so tightly that you can't let them go. You want to be able to let go of things. Things won't sustain all your life. And he tells the parable, life can be interrupted. Things that we value can be destroyed, taken away from us, suddenly meaningless to us. Life's full of interruptions. Life's also full of certain illusions. At least 12 American multimillionaires are looking forward to their lives beyond death. Confident in the continued progress of modern medicine, they have arranged for their bodies to be frozen after they die. They've also set up personal revival trusts, which are designed to ensure their present wealth will be waiting for them when they have been resurrected 100 or 200 years in the future. David Pizer, 64 years old, figured that the roughly $10 million he left to himself after all of the compound interest that's been added in would make him the richest man in the world when he wakes up. I wonder, what do you think? Would you bet your life on that wager? I think we sometimes operate under an illusion. We operate under the illusion, first of all, that our life will just continue on as it is, on and on and on into the future. When the one thing I've been able to observe as a constant in life is change. And sometimes we operate under the real delusion that our life will not come to an end. Jesus says these things that we value so much in this life, those aren't the treasure. We need to be storing up treasures in heaven, not here on earth. And then Jesus offers great insight. He offers to us that treasure is our relationship with Him. He offers to us that really God is the true owner of all things. You know that phrase, my Father owns the cattle on 1,000 hills? God is the one who owns it all. He's the one who created it all in the beginning. He's the one who has showered all of these things on us as a blessing to fulfill and enrich our lives. But God is the one that owns it. We don't have permanent claim to anything that we possess in this life other than our relationships with God and with one another. And we need to recognize that. We need to own that. In literature, the story is told of a man who opens a newspaper and discovers the date on the newspaper is 6 months in advance of the time he lived. He begins to read through the newspaper and he discovers stories about events that have not yet taken place. He turns to the sports page and there are scores of games not yet played. He turns to the financial page and discovers a report on the rise and fall of different stocks and bonds. He realizes this can make him a wealthy man. A few large bets on an underdog team he knows will win will make him wealthy. Investments in stocks that are now low but will get high can fatten his portfolio. He is delighted. Turns the page and comes to the obituary column and sees his picture and story. Everything changes. The knowledge of his death changes his view about his wealth. I want you to ask yourself the question this morning. If I were to die 6 months from now, we don't have to be melodramatic today. If I were to die 6 months from now, what would I leave behind? What would be notable about what I left out of my life? Would people be talking about how much wealth I had accumulated, how many barns I had constructed, how many sheaves of wheat I had harvested, how many toys I had in my garage? Or would people be asking and thinking and proclaiming, what a wonderful relationship I have with God and with God's people and with the people who didn't even know God except they knew me. You and I are stewards of a life. And that life is a gift from God. Ultimately, He is the true owner. He's the one that possesses all of the things that seem to attract our attention and hold our attention so much. God, as owner, will evaluate what it is that we've been able to produce with what we have been given stewardship of. So I ask you, what would the accounting look like? How would it look if you were to die 6 months from today? And how would it look if you were to live as God's steward of that 6 months? You are only stewards. I am only a steward of today. We have to live in the now. We shouldn't look too much to the future, as Jesus says elsewhere, each day has enough cares for itself. But what we do today determines what our stewardship will mean for all of those who walk along with us, who enjoy the same air that we breathe, who eat the same meals that we eat, who are blessed or cursed by our presence and relationship with Him. You, whether you like it or not, are a steward.